Submission published 27th of March. Put that link in the description so you can search the submissions. Now to find mine, where it's got number, type in 1946 or 1947. They're both identical. And the reason there's two is when you got to the upload options, there was a box that wasn't clear whether you needed to tick it or not. So I ticked it, then uploaded, and then unticked it and uploaded. It was also a bit tricky because they said to upload multiple items, and I uploaded 4 attachments, but they've only published the first one, incidentally, which is the most important one. But it's not too big a deal because I guarantee you more people come to my channel than are going to go to anonymous submission number 1947. And I'll be putting up extra videos on the attachments in the next week or two. Now, even though virtually no people are going to come and read this on this website, it's not a waste of time because I've got a record that I've sent it to the government and they've received it. And in fact, they've read it because they've redacted the logo that I had at the top. Now, that's fine because I ticked anonymous on everything. And if you go to other anonymous posts, someone's gone through and redacted all the names, but that's okay because you request that when you upload it. I'm going to do some dot points on this attachment. If you want to read the whole thing, you know where to find it. Come out of the blocks stating that COVID intervention, not the virus, COVID intervention was a catastrophic event in the history of Australia that must never be repeated. I think that's a fair statement. I then mentioned that central to the response or COVID intervention was the emergency declaration. In the findings, I point out that the government took an authoritarian approach, treating us like childlike dependents, and it was all based on modelling, not evidence, which is government mortality stats. Australians experiencing cold and flu symptoms because that's all it was. In the conclusion, the remedy or the outcome is that if there is an actual Spanish flu pandemic virus that is deadly, instead of legislative instruments based on modelling, they just produce the evidence and people will be experiencing it that will be part of the evidence and leave it up to Australians as responsible adults to make the decision. They can make recommendations and give advice, but none of this forced lockdown with the threat of violence. And because, look, virtually no Australians would risk themselves or their loved ones if there was an actual danger from a virus. I've included some statements in this summary attachment, which are backed up by evidence in the other 3 attachments. And I'll highlight here, well, and part down below, case fatality rate in Australia was less than 0.1% when chronic illness was omitted, and the average age of death was over 80. And I'll make another statement that COVID-19 differed from SARS, in that SARS global case fatality rate was actually 9.6%, and the median age of death was 45. Naturally, how viruses work, if they're too deadly, they wipe out the population too quickly and they don't spread, which is what happened with SARS. But they included SARS in the virus name in order to create fear right from the start. So that's it for this one. I will be doing follow-up videos on the other attachments, and I'll be adding material, I won't be reviewing just what's in the attachments because there was limits on how many words you could use. If there was going to be a Royal Commission, Albanese would have had one. Now, the Senate has called for a Royal Commission. I think it's driven by One Nation, Malcolm Roberts. And they took submissions on the terms of reference for a Royal Commission. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not going to go ahead, but if it does, it's going to be so watered down. They'll start it at a point after where the terms of reference should have included, was this virus anything more than cold and flu, which it wasn't, but that will never be discussed in the Royal Commission. I'll move straight to the lockdowns and whether they were, like over in the UK, they reckon they didn't go hard enough. That's why people suffer. Now, people suffer not from the virus, but from the intervention, but trying to get that across, they're not going to even get into a discussion about that. It would be exactly like when ex-Deutsche banker, well, is she ex? Jane Hume went and sabotaged one of the inquiries, or maybe even the Royal Commission itself. So there was zero exposure to the banks for any compliance that they needed to, or any reparations or anything against them. She made sure that didn't happen. Isn't it interesting, like Malcolm Turnbull left Goldman Sachs, was Prime Minister, sold off our water, shut down communications, all that sort of thing, and then went straight back to Goldman Sachs. So did he really leave Goldman Sachs? I bet Jane Hume will end up back at Deutsche Bank. Although Frydenberg went from Deutsche Bank treasurer, Goldman Sachs, and he's talking about coming back. Thought that could only be good, couldn't it? Well, I will await this report on the 19th of April and see if there's anything in there that's worth talking about. All right, that is it for this one now.